Hey everyone, welcome to Triple R Reefer with my Red Sea 425. So today I went ahead and cleaned the glass so it doesn't look like complete garbage. And I wanted to talk about all of my SPS, kind of go over the corals more. And then I wanted to touch on acro-eating flatworms. I feel like there's somewhat of a myth, if you will, that you can't beat acro-eating flatworms. And in some cases, I will say that's generally true. Depending on how big your tank is, how established it is, that can actually be true. I like to stay away from absolutes in most cases. It's kind of hard to do. I think it's natural to speak in absolutes, but there's always exceptions, or generally there's exceptions to a rule, an absolute. So there's generally exceptions to the rule. In acro-eating flatworms, I got them somehow. I don't have a clue exactly how, but got through my dipping process. No, I don't quarantine my corals, but it got through my dipping process and started just wreaking havoc. And during that time, I actually didn't know it was acro-eating flatworms, but I got into looking at options to treat acro-eating flatworms. Once I diagnosed the issue, with the help of a few reefers, they helped me to diagnose it, which is actually a lot easier than you'd think, depending on what stage you're in. In my case, I didn't have any fish, so I may have had them for a long time, and because I have wrasses, they were taking care of the issue. I could have gotten it in after that, who knows? But most of my SPS started suffering, and they were bad. I mean, I had some that most people probably would have thrown away. They were so bad. I had one of the ones that was just absolutely eaten up was this green slimer. This guy here was all but checked out. I mean, you can still kind of see the damage on him, but I mean, just absolutely black, just hardly any polyps. He seemed to have the most acro-eating flatworms on him and was just pale, had all the signs of acro-eating flatworms, and I just was hoping that was not the case. A lot of people, I feel like, they'll go into denial because it's such a punch in the gut. Spend all this time and effort quarantining, dipping, if you will, just trying your best to not get those terrors in your tank, and then you do, and then it's like, well, what you gonna do now? So I'll kind of tell you what I did. I'll tell you what I did first, and then we'll move on to the corals. So what I actually did was I started dosing a few things. Most of you already heard about them, but this is one. This is called Flatworm Stop. I was dosing this, got up to pretty much double the recommended dose. And then I also bought this, which is really expensive. Acro-eating Flatworm X by Fauna Marin, I believe. Anyway, this is pretty expensive. It's all fairly expensive stuff. I think that was $100. Camera roll. $100 bottle, and I think this was close to the same. So I was dosing both of those at the same time. I had zero issues from dosing those. So if you're curious about that, no issues whatsoever with dosing it. Of course, all my corals are struggling, so it's kind of hard to say, if that was really what was happening, with there being no issues, or if it was just the acro-eating flatworms doing their thing and stressing the corals out. So on top of that, and kind of why I put the caveat that you can beat acro-eating flatworms depending on where you are in the hobby, and in I guess really what stage you are. If you have a full-blown reef that's just encrusting everywhere, good luck. It's not going to be easy. So let me just tell you what I had to do. I didn't have any fish, so that was one good thing. This was a recent setup, so all of my corals were basically freshly planted, which basically meant that I could take them all off with hardly any encrusting. I had a few corals encrusted. This Matt B rainbow back here, it was encrusted. There was a few more I actually cut off the rock. That really wasn't too bad. You know, you hate to lose that, but it's part of it. And then I had this guy who was fully encrusted on the rock. So what I did was I took a couple of containers. They're the little ones that you would put, like, I don't know, towels and stuff in. They're, you know, roughly 15 to 20 gallons. And I bought 3 of them. And what I did was I took all the corals off the rocks. I ended up having to take some rocks completely out to make room. And I put a frag rack in here. It's just a, what's it called? Just an egg crate frag rack in here. And I took every coral off and put it on the frag rack, which allowed me to take every coral out at one time and dip it in these containers. So you can't leave even one Acropora in your tank. Montes are fine, you know, all your LPS are fine to leave in, but you cannot leave even a single piece of coral in there because you risk not catching that that one cycle. So what I did is I put them on the frag rack. I would line up all 3 containers in front of the tank here. I'll just put them right here in front. And I would put about 3/4 full in each container. And I would put in the first container, I would do Coral RX. The second container, I would do Bayer, the Bayer dip that's recommended. And then the third was just plain water, because you don't want that going back in your reef tank. So I did that every day for 4 weeks. And I actually think I did 1 extra week. But by doing it once every week, I did it on Fridays, but that doesn't matter. I did it once every week, and that breaks the life cycle. That will catch any fresh eggs and kill adults before they can lay eggs. You can't miss a day. My absolutes. You can. I recommend sticking to what's known. So, you know, these are studied, and for the most part, I believe they've been figured out as far as their reproductive cycle. So you kind of got that going for you, and by knowing that, you can beat them. The problem, of course, comes when you have encrusted rocks. My advice would be to take a frag and get rid of that coral and start over. People that have fish in their system, that's a whole nother story, because it's sometimes impossible. You lose your biofiltration. There's a lot of issues doing it that way. You might be better off just trying to, you know, manage them. There's a few people that do manage acro-eating flatworms. It's just a pain in the ass, because you can at one point have a coral doing great, and then the next day it's struggling because you know, some adults are on there. You'll have to start blowing them off. And anyway, it's a fight. It's a battle. This guy here was all but checked out. I mean, no polyp extension. Just, I wish I had taken a lot more pictures. I do have some. Once I figure out YouTube a little more, I'll post them. But you know, some of these corals were just, it was heartbreaking. Some of them were just so bad. You know, like I said, you put a lot of time and effort in these corals and growing them and taking care of them, and then all of a sudden it's just, you know, smack. I did learn that they don't really love tenuous corals, so that was great because they were not hit as hard. Yes, they were hit some, but they weren't quickly getting eaten, which made things a lot better for me, because I love tenuous corals. I think they legitimately look the best. course, that's just my opinion. But that's how you'll beat acroweed and flatworms. There's that coral. There it is. Dipping every day for 4 weeks, or excuse me, once a week for 4 weeks, and then making sure that you kind of come at them with every angle you can. You know, I use these bottles of chemicals with really who knows exactly what's in them, and I can't say that was, you know, I wouldn't say that's what beat them, because I just don't believe that. I think it was the dips, but it couldn't hurt, and I think it could only help. This rock too had a lot of encrusted coral, so the whole rock had to be put in the water in the dips. So this rock and this rock here with this guy had a lot of encrusted corals. I actually cut off most every single coral that was on a rock just to make things that much easier, because it's hard to get every rock back where it was without knocking corals off of it. So it really was just a lot easier to do it that way. So that's how I beat acroweed and flatworms. If you got any questions about any of that, please ask. I will be happy to answer that. So these are just some of my corals that are hopefully going to become what they should have been a few years ago. All right, so I wanted to share that with you. I'll go over my corals another day on names and everything, but you kind of get an idea of what I've got in this tank now as far as SPS. And I did want to touch on LPS, but this video is long enough. I think we can just go over that another day. So anyway, I appreciate y'all watching. Please subscribe and like this video. I'd really appreciate it. All right, thanks everyone.